so we're last time we spoke about legal protection, and for those of you who know, legal protection and identity theft defense, they go hand in hand. Right, so tonight we're going to cover some of the best practices that you can also incorporate, not just with your clients, but even in your own personal life. I'm going to share some client stories, so again, feel free to share them. I didn't include any names, intentionally, so that you can go ahead and relay that to people that you come across with. We're also going to be talking about different features of identity theft defense, how to enroll your client, and of course, compensation. Okay, so these are just some of the tips that I've, been able to just gather over time. Either I've learned it from, trainings or just things that I've observed. So one of the things I can recommend, so obviously all of us being in this financial services business, which is Primerica, we have to be the best ambassador of what it means to be responsible, right? Financially responsible, and also making sure that we maintain a very professional social media presence, right? And also making sure that our own accounts are not subject to identity theft. So again, these are some of my tips. So I highly recommend, if you're not already doing this, to go ahead and check your accounts often. And by accounts, I mean online banking, I mean like your inboxes. You don't have to spend all day on it, but especially in the times that we're in right now, you guys know, there's just so much going on, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people impacted, on the negative side of things. So when there's tough times, and sometimes people do desperate things, so you just want to go ahead and make sure that you're free and clear from any identity theft. Another thing that a lot of that's been going around is, like on social media, but especially things on like Facebook, when they have you do like quizzes or little surveys, which many times we think is just for fun, right? But what I can say is that if you ever come across those surveys, right, where it says like, oh, what's your favorite color? What's your anniversary? What's your mother's maiden name? Like what high school did you go to? What was all of those things? I know, you don't realize it, but you're actually giving away common security questions. Because think of it like this: anytime you've signed up for something, they'll ask you, what was your first car? What school did you go to? What was your mother's maiden name? You do not want to give that kind of information on social media, as innocent as it may be, even if you're thinking, oh, it's just for fun. The reason why is because, there's people that are on social media who take bits and pieces of that information that we put out there, and over time, someone could actually be, taking your identity, and you had no idea that this was happening over time, right? Another thing I recommend, and this is actually something I've learned even just from the social media monitoring of the app, is in the past, when I would actually tag or share my location, it would always flag it, and it would always say, I would recommend taking it down. And then I started to think, why would it flag if I tagged I was at Starbucks or something, right? The reason why, it's a security issue. Because, for example, if I knew that shot caller, would always, go to a specific Starbucks here in, let's say, National City, if, let's say, someone wanted to stalk her, they would know where to find her, right? Especially if you post your location in real time. So if you absolutely have to post where you are, I highly recommend that you post your location. Do a late post, right? Hashtag late post. Do it that way. That way somebody couldn't just, drop by that Starbucks and come find you, right? Another thing is, keep your daily routine as private as possible. Oh, I think it was a typo. As private as possible, right? So what that means is, like, if you go to the gym, and this is before coronavirus, right? If you go to the gym at like a certain time or a certain location, you don't want to have to put that all over social media, because again, someone could say, okay, Glendale goes to the gym at this time, then she goes to the Starbucks. You guys get the picture. Someone could literally, be following my routine a little too close for comfort. Okay. The next thing is use strong passwords. I'm sure all of you guys are doing that, but don't have things that are so obvious, right? Encrypt your technology if you aren't already doing that. Use antivirus, which I know some of these things might sound redundant, but sometimes the simple things are the things that get overlooked, right? Don't use Post-its. I mean, you'd be surprised how many, now that we're all working from home, you don't want for all your password information to be somewhere where it's just very visible. Okay. Other things that you can, choose not to do is don't post your out of town trip pictures until after you get back. I know it's hard because we all get excited and we want to post and share, like, look where I am, look where my family is, right? But think of it like this. If you posted like, hey, social media world, I'm in Europe for 3 weeks, right? Then, think about all the people who know, okay, well, that's an empty house because, someone could rob you because you just put out there that you're not at home, right? And you just gave a whole world of information, right? Another thing is, don't take pictures of your boarding pass or any other airline credentials, even if it's from the past, because a lot of people don't know this, but when you actually post like your boarding pass, I could literally, if I wanted to, download some kind of barcode reader. And when you posted it online, I could just hover my phone over that, and all of the information that you use in booking that flight, I can extract that. I mean, if you posted like your boarding pass number, your confirmation number, think about how easy it is for somebody on your social media, or who knows who else could get it. They could literally change your flight. They could cancel it. They could like pull your address. You guys get the picture, right? Shred your old papers. I think we're all doing that already in our quarantine. Another thing I highly recommend is there's actually, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's this like identity theft type of stamp, right? So you want to use something like this, and this actually, when you get your mail, it can actually like blur out like your name before you go ahead and shred it. So it's not expensive, but you want to definitely use something like this to block out your mailing information. And of course, in the business, you want to go ahead and communicate with clients, especially if it's sensitive, confidential information, using Primerica secure email, because this is encrypted, right? Okay, and I alluded to this earlier, but you guys know, us being in coronavirus stay-at-home orders, there's really so many cases of fraud right now. I mean, you have people that are finding creative ways of intercepting checks, people that pretending to be someone else for the sake of, being seen at the hospital. All of us are doing online shopping. People are working from home. You guys get the picture I'm trying to paint, right? With all of us being online, of course, hackers, they know this, right? And they're going to go ahead and take advantage of the fact that everybody is doing everything that we got to do online. Okay, and then I posted this one here, right? So I know you guys are all watching me through your screens, but how many of you guys have seen bumper stickers, right? And for us, it might think, okay, well, Coach Glendale, why are you showing like bumper stickers, right? Well, let me tell you guys, bumper stickers actually reveal a lot about a family. For example, you guys have seen like those family stick figures, right? So if I saw like a car, a vehicle that had that, I already know what their family dynamics is, right? So I'll be like, oh, okay, there's a mom, the dad, they have 2 young children, right? Let's say their decal says they live in like Otay Ranch, or the student goes to Mesa College, or their kid is an honor student at Fletcher Elementary, and it says like their military spouse. So seeing that in my head, I could be thinking, okay, so they're a happy family, someone's in the military, and if they're a proud, let's say, Army wife, that means most likely the husband is always deployed. So she's pretty much all by herself. And I know she lives in, let's say, Otay Ranch. I know where the children go. But do you guys see how much information I was able to extract from bumper stickers? And I don't even know who's driving the car. So even things like that really says a lot about us. So the whole purpose of our training today is to really create a different level of awareness, that we really put out so much information and we don't even realize that we're doing that, right? And because we're just giving away information, this makes us much more likely to be a victim of identity theft. Okay, so these are just some of the headlines, right? So if you haven't already used, the headlines to your advantage, there's so much material out there, but you guys may or may not have heard there was an Equifax, breach And the reason why you want to share things like that is all of us at one point in our lives have used a credit one way or another, right? And all of our social securities, because it's gone through the three major credit reporting bureaus, you know, it's very likely that we've been part of that data breach, right? What about Yahoo? You know, there's a lot of people, 3 billion accounts. I mean, think about all the people that you know who use Yahoo, right? So, like, one of the things you could say is all of your clients that you know use Yahoo, you say, hey, I wanted to, you know, talk to you about something, because, you know, one of the ways that we're protecting our clients is making sure that they're not victims of identity theft. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but back in 2013, 3 billion accounts got hacked. I just want to make sure that yours is not one of those. But do you see how very conversational that is? What about Target, right? I love Target. I'm always there, right? So 18 and a half, you know, million to 47 states that Target had to pay because of a security breach. And this is already like, you know, companies that are very large, but even they've had, you know, different things in their system that fell through. Okay, what about, you guys are familiar with LifeLock, right? This is a very highly marketed product, and it's very ironic because LifeLock, which is, you know, the one that you see on the commercials, they actually use Equifax as far as their marketing arm. And the reason why I say it's ironic is if LifeLock is supposed to be protecting our information, but Equifax, again, I just shared, is the very thing that got breached. Think about it. What is it really protecting you from, right? So anybody that you know who has LifeLock, or maybe they have another identity theft protection, you also want to reach out to them. You don't want to just think, well, they already have identity theft protection. No, you still want to reach out to them. Just like how we reach out to people who might already have term. Well, do they have the right identity theft protection? Right? One of the things that I always like to share is, do you have your own RFID wallet, radio frequency identification? So you guys know that when you go to like a lot of the stores now, they have an option to do Apple Pay, Google Pay, right? You can even literally just tap to pay, all those different ways you can, you know, pay now at a merchant. So with this thing called RFID, you guys notice that every single one of your debit or credit cards have a chip. So the way that it works is it's very secure for the merchant, because by us entering that chip into their POS system, it actually verifies that you are in fact the user, or you are in, it's a real, you know, card. But the thing is, for hackers, it's easier for them to go ahead and pick up that signal. So for example, let's say I was behind shot caller at Target, right? This, before coronavirus, just an example. If I was behind her at Target and she had no idea that on my app I had some kind of RFID reader, she still has her wallet in her purse, but she has no idea that I literally stole like the front and back of her debit or credit card. So it's like electronic pickpocketing. Think of it like that. So that's why people are saying, I don't understand, Coach Glendale, how I've been a victim of identity theft when I have my wallet here. Well, people don't have to physically steal your wallet anymore, right? For them to be able to, you know, mess up your credit history, or just mess up, you know, all of the things you've worked so hard to achieve. So some of the questions that you can use when you're with a client, or just bringing up the conversation, is you want to ask the client, okay, you know, have you ever had your information compromised, or have you ever known someone who's been a victim of identity theft, or hopefully it hasn't happened to you? What did you do? You know, would you want to have that peace of mind? Everybody knows somebody who's had something happen. If not, it's happened to them in one way or another, right? Because unless you're still like mailing everything and you don't do anything online and you don't go anywhere, you've been a victim of identity theft in some scale. Okay, so again, these are some of the stories that you can share with your clients or the people that you're reconnecting with. But client story number one, we were doing an annual review, and this client of ours, she was actually in the Philippines at the time, and she noticed a bunch of transactions, right? She was in the Philippines. These transactions were happening in real time here in the United States, and somebody had used her card and just went on a shopping spree. But she noticed that all of the transactions were less than $100. So at the time, we didn't have identity theft protection, right? She was telling me this is an older story of when I had met up with her. And she was saying how almost $3,000 got taken out of her checking account, right? And she had no idea what to do. And I guess she didn't have the initiative to do something about it, which is crazy, but that's how the story unfolded. Well, anyways, the reason why I share with you the multiple transactions of less than $100 each is because this person who took her card obviously knew what they were doing. Because if it's less than $100 transaction, then many of the merchants, it doesn't require an ID or it doesn't need a signature. You could just run it as credit. That's why they were able to go to grocery stores, gas stations, and somehow just went on a shopping spree, right? So these are just examples you can use. Another story is we have a client, and at the time the child was around 7 years old, and this child is a junior, and he actually is the recipient of Social Security benefits because of his late father. But because I talked to them about the identity theft family plan, we actually were able to find out that that 7-year-old, son, someone was already tampering with his credit history, and he was 7 years old. So I told that client, like, look, your 7-year-old son is not a regular 7-year-old son, right? Because he literally has assets that will transfer to his name when he becomes of age. So it's good that this is brought to our attention, right? Okay, client story number 3. So this family, they were living with relatives, and they were looking to get their own apartment. And when they started that process of applying for their own place, it looked as though the spouse had committed a crime on the East Coast, and yet they had never been to the East Coast. They've barely been here in the United States at the time for like a year or two. So obviously that didn't happen, but someone either had the same name or someone could have stolen his identity, but literally they only found out when they were applying for an apartment of their own, which created a lot of unnecessary delays. Okay, client story number 4. This one of our clients was telling us how she went to a doctor's appointment, and so she's in the lobby, in the waiting room, and come to find out, you know how like the medical assistants, they call you that the doctor's ready to see you. So she stood up, and she has a very common name, by the way. And they said, okay, Miss Cruz. And then two women stood up, right? They had the same birthday, the same name, the same doctor. So I told this client, oh my goodness, you better make sure that you have some kind of identity theft protection, because you know how easy it is for like a doctor, because everything's done electronically now. Like, what if the doctor, because they're human too, what if they accidentally click a diagnosis that was meant for the other Mrs. Cruz, right? Because you guys is like birthday and your name and you have the same doctor. It's very likely to happen, right? So she literally only found out about it on that time. And that's using what she told me, I was able to get her to move forward with her identity theft protection, right? Because clients are going to share with you bits and pieces of information, and our job is to help them move forward. So if this client shared with me this experience, then you know that I'm going to say, okay, well, now that you've told me that, there's no way I'm not going to let you have ID theft protection, right? Okay, client story number 5. This one's kind of crazy, but I wish I was making it up, but it's true, right? So we have a client, and the mother-in-law, right? She had actually been deported, and it had to do with identity theft. So what happened was the mother-in-law, she's like a senior citizen. She keeps forgetting her green card whenever she crosses the border. There was some kind of like family emergency or death in the family. So she crossed the border, right? She was here in San Diego. When she was trying to go back home, or I guess come back into San Diego, then at the border, when they pulled up her name, it looks like somebody of the same name had committed some kind of grand theft auto. But the thing is, she wasn't able to prove that it wasn't her. Again, it was another case of having a very common name. She didn't have her resident alien card on her because just her senior mind kept forgetting, right? And it's just the timing of it was bad too. But long story short, One of my clients literally can't see her mother-in-law because she got deported, and because there was nothing she was able to do at the time to prove that that wasn't her. That is just so crazy to me, right? And it's an identity theft issue. Okay, some of the other speaking points that you can share are, a lot of times people say, well, Glendale, like, why do I need identity theft? Why do I need to get a family plan? Okay, so for example, with minors, right? Many times, like parents, they don't think of really monitoring their kids' credit history. Why? Because their kid doesn't need a credit card or applying for a loan. But the thing is, these hackers, they know that very fact. They know that you as a parent are not going to check your child's credit history, so they are an easy target. Because if I stole your kid's social security number, you literally wouldn't even discover it or think of even looking it up until they applied for their first car, first apartment, first student loan, right, etc. That's why minors are a very easy target. Okay, elderly people, we all know elderly people. Well, of course, they're not as tech savvy, or maybe they might get intimidated by technology. Not saying all of them, but there's a part of the population where they did things the old school way, right? So, their identity could have very well been compromised and they literally have no idea. What about people in the military? Well, normally one person is gone quite a bit if they're always deployed. The military is taking them away from their family. Well, they're obviously not going to be monitoring all of their identity theft issues if they have limited access to Wi-Fi, or of course they're defending our country. They're not really looking at their identity theft situation that closely. So they're also very prone to identity theft. What about people that are just getting settled into a brand new country? Think of it like this. If you're newly immigrated and you're trying to establish yourself here in America, think of how many places you have to go. You have to go to the DMV. You have to file for Social Security. You're trying to set up your medical. You're trying to apply for an apartment. You're just filling out stacks of paper. Think of all the places that you just gave away your information just in an effort to establish yourself in a new country. What about college students? When you apply for, loans and just college application, you gave away tons of information. So you guys are seeing all these different things that are happening. And a lot of times, again, we don't realize how much information we're putting out there. So the identity theft, app, it actually covers beyond the financial, because you're going to get clients and they're going to say, well, Glendale, I already have some kind of protection at my bank, because if my bank account gets compromised, I can just call Chase and say cancel the card, or I can just have them close the account. Okay, that's only one area of your life that they can take care of, right? And that's still very limited, right? That's the financial part. What about governmental? What if I pretended to be you, right? And committed a crime using your name, changed your address, got a payday loan, those different scenarios. Again, someone could commit a crime. What if I didn't have medical insurance and someone had a surgery, gave birth to twins? You get a $50,000 bill. You can't explain why you got that, or you can't really dispute that it wasn't you, right? So things like that, this is where identity theft protection really comes in, right? It's $11 a month, and this is for the individual plan, and it covers the member, right? $22, and I think this is such a great value, because think of it like the member, the spouse, and up to 8 dependents. For $22, the whole family is covered on that plan. I can't think of a more competitive plan out there, even if it wasn't our own. I would even get it, because think of how much value it's bringing to the family, right? Okay, how it works, if you don't already have it, highly recommend that you get it today. Not because we're just telling you as your coaches, but really there's just so much benefit from getting it, right? So you guys can see on your screen, it gives you access to your credit score, which that alone, people are paying like $15 a month on average just to get their credit score, right? And literally you can call the ID theft defense, that 24/7 line, if something weird comes up to your attention in the middle of the night, that something doesn't seem right. It actually shows you changes to your credit history, any address change, all those different things we covered, right? It's going to alert you on the app, so that way you're aware. And then how you can actually enroll a client is you can actually do this on your Primerica online, or if you're in front of the client or you're doing it through Zoom, you can actually just do it through the app. You're going to go to the main menu, drop down to identity theft protection. It should already have your information preloaded as the agent, and you can actually offer identity theft defense across the nation. You just have to select, when you fill out the information, what state that they're in, right? You guys can see it's going to walk you straight through it. Make sure you select the right, the right state. And then the client will go ahead and fill out the username and all of their enrollment information. It literally takes like 5 minutes. They're going to enter their payment information, of course. They're going to get an activation email. Make sure that you, have them follow those instructions of activating, so that way they can get into the app sooner. And before they used to do it like instantly, but I think now that they've changed it, so just give the client a heads up. You're going to receive an email. It's going to give you your membership number. It's going to give you instructions of how to download the app, right? And then this is like a closer look of what it'll monitor, right? Credit reporting, your score, and it monitors on a monthly basis, any changes to public records, internet monitoring, social media, like what we talked about, making sure that someone doesn't pretend to be you, high risk monitoring, court records, sex offenders in your area, any change of address, monitoring all of your children on there. Okay, and then this is just an example of how the alerts would look like if that pertained to you. Okay, so it says there, applied knowledge is power. So first things first, you guys know I'm such a firm believer that the only way that you can really talk about it and have the kind of conviction that you can have is by having it first. And what it's going to do is, it's just giving you another way to go ahead and help that client, and it gives you additional compensation. If you haven't done so already, all of the client solutions that the trainings that the company puts out, then, you want to plug in. Because even me, I'm always learning something different. I might learn like one extra way to say it that might be so much more relatable for the client. Make sure you go to the company store, the Primerica store, and buy like a 10-cent brochure. That 10-cent brochure could lead you to a client sale, and it can open up a lot more conversations, right? So if you don't already have the brochures, order brochures online, have them mailed to your house. Right now we're all at home anyway. Make a list of clients that you haven't talked to, or better yet, send it to all your clients, invest in a stamp, mail it off. You just don't know. What if that 10 cents turns to so much more? Not what if, it will turn into so much more, right? Showcase your RFID wallet. Like I always tell clients, like, look, do you have an RFID wallet? And they're like, what is that? And I say, oh, it protects against identity theft. And just by me saying, do you have an RFID wallet? Then they'll be like, what do you mean? And boom, you're able to help them with identity theft protection, right? So what I also put here is go the extra mile, right? If you can, right, and the client is all set up in their app already, go ahead and help them input all of the information. I understand now we're doing everything through Zoom, but there's still a way you can help them, right? Because they might not understand what does this section mean, right? But again, if you've done it yourself, you'll know exactly what to do as far as navigating the app. What I also do, what Mom and I and Mike do, is like our really good clients, this could be like a client gift, like for the end of the year, or just, you guys can, be the judge of that. But we've given like RFID wallets for our clients because one, it makes them feel really special, right? And at the same time, it reinforces that we believe, hey, it's important that you have it. So since we got you set up on the app, what's a small purchase of an RFID wallet? What is that compared to just building that customer loyalty, right? And we also give them little tips, kind of like what I shared with you in the beginning, of just things that they should do so that they don't make themselves more of a victim of identity theft, right? And last but not least, you do get compensated. So you guys can see that, we do get paid, and these are depending on your level, what it is, right? Whether it's individual or family plan. And then there's also trails at the RVP level, right? And you can find all of this information on POL. And, again, the best way to learn is to have it. If you already have it, go ahead and get back into your app and relearn it. Just kind of play around with it. That way you can get reacquainted. I'm always here if you have any questions. Thank you so much for your time. And back to you, shot caller.